just want to say thank you for joining me. We're going through the book of Exodus, and we're currently in Exodus chapter 20 and looking at some of the commandments. Tonight's message I've entitled Respecting Rights. In the commandments, we see rights that are to be respected. For instance, you shall not murder. The right which is implied is each person has a right to life, and any violation of this principle is an injustice. We are to honor and respect the life of one another. Life is a right that is to be respected. The same is true for marital rights. In the command, you shall not commit adultery, a violation occurs when sacred trust has been broken, when the covenant of faithfulness has been abandoned, and the institution of marriage has been disrespected. The commandments teach us to respect that which is personal, to respect that which is personal. The life of a person, the marriage of a person. And tonight we continue to look into the rights of a person and take a look into the personal by looking at the 8th commandment. Thou shalt not steal. You shall not steal. And notice too that the commandments are speaking directly to the individual. You, personally, shall not steal. Yes, the commandments were given to the nation, but it's also directed and pointed to the individual. It's personal. You shall not steal. Here in this commandment, we see that a person has rights to his or her property. We call those property rights. You know, it's said that social order is built upon a society that recognizes private property. This is what social order is built upon. A society that recognizes private property. That government exists mainly for the security of men's lives and properties. And anarchy would supervene if either could be with impunity attacked. Property rights are to be respected. Property rights are to be respected. A violation and injustice has occurred when personal property, the right to possess one's own belongings and fruits of their own labor, is wrongfully seized. You shall not steal secretly, openly, fraudulently, or through carelessness. You shall not steal. Stealing what is not rightfully yours to take is a violation of personal rights. A respect of rights has been violated, and an injustice has been committed. Defining what is one's property is a study in and of itself. What is one's property? We could in part state it as the fruits of one's labor. The savage who hammers out a flint knife by repeated blows with a pebble, laboring long and undergoing pain in the process, feels that the implement which he has made is his own, and that his right to it is indisputable. If he is deprived of it by force or fraud, he is wrong. Instinctively, man feels that some things become his, especially by toil expended on them, and that, by parity of reasoning, some things become his neighbor's. You know, it's interesting when looking at the commandments, how they build upon one another. For instance, the life of another. In order to take the life, the body must be violated. In other words, you have a right to your body. It is yours. It is your personal property. Your body is yours, and thus should not be infringed upon. And when we look at the word sin in the Bible, sin is also seen as a trespass. You've crossed some line. You've violated something. Sin is seen as a trespass or a transgression. Something has been violated. To infringe is to act in a way that is against a law or that limits someone's rights or freedom. You've probably heard that word infringe before in the Bill of Rights that we have here in America. That's what infringe means. It means to act in a way that is against a law or that limits someone's rights or freedom. Now, a person has a right to his or her life and has a right to his or her body, which can be seen as the basis of personal property. Your body is yours. It's your property. A person owns their own body. It does not belong to the state. The state exists in order to protect the individual rights, not the other way around. You shall not murder. You shall not steal the life of another. It does not belong to you. It is not yours to take. It is a violation of that which is sacred and personal. It is a violation of property rights. It is a violation against the person and the person's God. For as the Bible states, we are God's handiwork. We are the work of his hands, formed and fashioned and made. We read in Psalms 139, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." Notice who does the creating and the knitting. God does the creating. God does the knitting. And notice there in the verse where it occurs. "For you created me in my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." And I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. A healthy respect for God and his creation should create in us a healthy respect and awe for one another. The psalmist states, "Your works are wonderful." And the psalmist knows this. He knows this deep down inside. He knows this all full well. He knows that God's works are wonderful. He knows that also by knowing himself, that he, the psalmist, is God's handiwork. And that is true for us all. Not only does personal property have a direct correlation of one's ownership of their self, their body, but it also goes back to how we are made and who we belong to. God has formed us and he has fashioned us. He has made mankind in his image. Respecting others should stem out of a healthy respect for God. We see this order laid out for us in the commandments. The commandments begin with God, the God of liberty who sets mankind free. And it addresses our conception of God. That God is not the work of man's labor. He is not crafted or designed by a skilled craftsman. No image constructed by human hands can do him justice and should not be attempted to capture the divine. We are taught to respect his person and respect the personal, to respect his nature and his name, to respect and revere the holy. And that should carry over into our relations and relationships with others, for those who have cared for and nurtured us, our parents, our first relationships, whom God has ordained us to be in first contact with and to have that special bond and connection. Life should be respected. Marriage should be respected. And personal property should be respected. There's a deep underlying dependence and connection in these things, in the makeup and bedrock of society's structures. We can see it in the order of things, tracing it back to its very roots. Think back with me, if you will, back to the very beginning where God breathed life into the first man. And then think back too with the first marriage, male and female, the partnership with the work involved. We see that as well as we remember back to Adam and Eve and the work that they were given. We see this partnership and how they worked together. We see this partnership with the work involved and taking care of personal property. You remember Eden, the garden that God had given them, that they were to take care of it. They were to take care of this property, this personal property. And there also we see the violation. We see a trespass that occurs. They went against what God had said. They went against God, making the decision to use freedom, their own freedom, in the negative. The first humans were permitted to eat from any tree in the garden except one, and yet they were enticed to take and eat that which was forbidden. In a sense, it was stolen. It was wrongfully taken and consumed, and a violation occurred. This disrespectful rights, a violation occurred. As with the fruit, people can be enticed. We can be enticed. We see that happening with the crime rates and people looting and taking what doesn't belong to them, vandalism and just going in stores and raiding and looting. People can be enticed to reach out and take the belongings of another, thinking it to be the easy way, taking that which they did not work for, taking the fruit of someone else's labors. We read in the book of Proverbs, chapter 9, that folly is an unruly woman. She is simple and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house on a seat at the highest point of the city, calling out to those who pass by, who go straight on their way. Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. Food eaten in secret is delicious. But little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are deep in the realms of the dead. And again in Proverbs chapter 10, it reminds us that ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value. Taking what does not belong to you, stealing, is trying to take a shortcut, but will lead to dissatisfaction and destruction. The book of Proverbs reminds us that diligent hands bring wealth. The right way is to respect others and work hard for what you want. The wages of the righteous is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death. And also we're reminded in the book of Proverbs that the Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. Stealing is dishonest. It's disrespectful. It's disrespecting the rights of another. If you've ever had something stolen from you, you feel this violation. That you've been violated. Somebody has gone through your belongings, that someone has gone through your house or your vehicle or whatever it may be, and you feel that security that has been abrupted, that someone has come in and violated the sacred space of yours. Stealing is dishonest, and it's something to avoid. Aren't you glad that we live in a society, a culture who looks at these things, who still seeks to uphold the law? We need to respect each other's boundaries and personal space, because stealing is wrong. And so instead of stealing, let us do the opposite with charitable giving. I pray that this message has been a blessing to you, and I pray and hope that you have a blessed rest of your week. Until next time, bye-bye.